Good morning, Friday, February 14th, Senate Agriculture in action here. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. I just want to take a moment. We had a big day yesterday. We have the super senior in Vermont here, and just want to recognize Senator Brian Collmore as a super senior. Very well done program, and he is super. He's not a senior, but anyways, congratulations with that. It was very good.
Thank you.
We're going to spend some time this morning with Vermont Housing and Conservation Board. It's Coalition Day for them. And we're going to start off with Abby.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us here. My name is Abby White. I'm Vice President for Engagement at the Vermont Land Trust, and I am one of the co-chairs of the Vermont Housing and Conservation Coalition. And the Vermont Housing and Conservation Coalition is an organization that's been around since the early 80s. And we are 50 plus organizations strong, representing affordable housing, so affordable housing developers all throughout the state, and service providers, and also organizations that advance land conservation, land trusts, and others that support conservation. And one of the things that's unique about this coalition is there's really nothing like it in the US. There's no other state where you see these two interests of housing and conservation, which you might think would be at odds, actually come together and say, no, we're stronger together. That when we make, as a state, smart investments in housing and conservation, it's really communities that thrive. So that's what we're here to share with you today, to talk about ways in which VHCB resources have been put to work. Of course, we're going to be focusing on farming. And there's a lot that we have done as a state to protect farmland and to help farmers succeed. So we'll be talking with you about that today. The coalition this year is asking the General Assembly to support full funding for VHCB, which would be $36.9 million in fiscal year 26 budget. This was the amount that was included in the governor's budget. So we're asking you to support that. With the full property transfer tax continuing to rise because of high-end real estate transactions, we think the full statutory share for VHCB, which is all about permanent and perpetual affordability, is really the right investment for this year. So this committee has always been incredibly supportive of VHCB. I'm sure we can continue to rely on your support, and our ask is full statutory share. But with that, I will let the real stars of the show tell you who they are and why they're here. So I'll introduce them. We have Becca Knaus with the Goat Project, Mike Audette from Ledge Haven Farm, Katie Rose Leonard with Head Over Heels Farm, and Julie Curtin with Champlain Housing Trust. So thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Becca. Start us off.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Becca Knaus. I'm the owner of the Goat Project. We're a small goat dairy in Bennington. Right now I have about 20 goats, and I use their milk to make soap and also sell raw milk. And we're currently in the process of building a creamery to make cheese, which in large part is due to the support of VHCB. I sit before you today because of the incredible impact of VHCB and their programs that I've had in my farming career, specifically the Intervale Center and the Farm and Forest Viability Program. To give you a little background, I had many years of farming under my belt when I bought my first goats, so I was pretty accustomed to the farming side of things. However, it was the business part, the accounting, the profit and loss statements, minding expenses and income that was the steepest learning curve for me. This is where VHCB has been a game changer. When I started working with Sarah Armstrong Dunnigan through the Intervale Center, my expenses decreased and my income increased as I learned how to use QuickBooks and spreadsheets and keep an eye on money that was coming in and going out. With the Farm and Forest Viability Program, Sarah and I worked together to research and develop a business plan that helped me map out the expansion into cheese and what that could look like, which has been something I've been working towards for a very long time. Not only did the Farm and Forest Viability Program help me create this business plan, I was awarded an equipment grant through VHCB to upgrade my milking system from milking by hand to milking with machines. With this equipment, I was also able to qualify for a line of credit through the Vermont Community Loan Fund, by using it as collateral. VHCB's impact in my farming career doesn't stop there. Last fall, we were able to conserve our farmland with Vermont Land Trust, which has been key financially to helping me move forward with building the creamery and expanding my farm. There's a lot of value and meaning also as a farmer, knowing that this land, this now conserved land, will be affordable for the next generation. I hope that it's clear how vital VHCB and their programs have been for me as I develop my farm business. To say that I'm incredibly grateful for VHCB's support as a farmer, it feels like an understatement. I've chosen a career that has many obstacles, such as slim margins, funding availability, and weather, not to mention the strain on my body and mind, making this network of VHCB support invaluable. VHCB has been my lifeline in building my dream as a farmer and providing food for my community. And with that, I want to thank you for your ongoing support of VHCB. This year, we're asking the legislature to fund VHCB at its full statutory share, as supported by the governor's budget. And this, for me, feels especially important right now as our federal supported programs are becoming more uncertain. Thank you for listening and for your time.
Thank you. Questions? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, first of all, you must not have got the memo that samples were supposed to.
I'll be back in.
I guess the other thing is, how long were you in business before you got involved with the VHCB?
I've been farming since 2000, and I bought our farm in 2000 and the end of 2016. And I started with the Intervale Center in 2021.
And it sounds as if your business basically exploded exponentially after you did get involved.
It really refined my business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very slow and very meandering. And with VHCB's support through the Intervale and Farm Viability as Land Trust, it's really helped me to hone in those business skills, making it a potentially viable business for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Intervale, what is that? That is Burlington's Intervale?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
and you're down in Bennington?
Mhm.
And did that find a problem being that far apart or just?
No, not because we did it all remotely.
And second question is, how big are you hoping to become? Being that your farm's expanding. You're at
In-
20 now?
We're at 20 now. In 2030, we're aiming for 45 goats. And at that point, I will be able to make enough income to sustain myself and employees and also have savings.
How much does a goat give?
How much milk?
Yeah,
Depends on the goat,
of course.
but generally like a little under a gallon
Okay.
if she's having a good day.
How are you scaling your product? How does your product get out there? Because that's of interest to us, because what we're finding that there just seems to be a lot of cooperation, in all of the, of everyone, from vegetable producers to obviously, dairy, milk, from cows and stuff, but and we're hearing that there's not enough goat milk to go around. It sounds like you're using all of your product as far as to make your own product. How are you getting your product out there?
So because I started with soap, I've been able to sell it directly off the farm. I have a website people buy it from, and that is expanding the wholesale nationwide through the website and through an online marketplace. And also co-ops. I sell throughout the state in New York and Massachusetts, and directly in my community. And then so with cheese, I'm going to start doing more farmers markets, and also the co-ops that are selling the soap have also committed to selling the cheese.
So when you say,
Mhm.
buy a soap that's made from goat milk,
Mhm.
what's the advantage of that? Because we have people that listen.
Goat milk is amazing for your skin. And there's a lot of people who have skin issues that seek out goat milk.
Mm.
So, which was really interesting to me as I was starting in that market, because I didn't really realize how valuable it is for people. And people really seek it out at farmers markets. They're like, oh, thank goodness, I'm always looking for goat milk.
Yeah.
Goat milk soap. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah, interesting.
Last question for me is, how big's your farm?
Oh, we're about 80 acres. 80.
80, yeah. Okay, questions?
Well, sorry.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
you coming
It was
in.
an honor. Thank you.
All right, Mike, right?
Good morning,
Good morning, sir.
Mike Audette from Orwell.
Yep.
We live in the best of, I want to say best of Vermont. We're on the farm on the lake. Our boundaries are with East Creek and on the edge of the lake. One of our best products is agriculture and milk. We enjoy it. I'm farming with my brother, Tom. We all work together on short days when I had to go to the meeting or something, my wife would milk. Or milk with me when my brother served on a board on Yankee Farm Credit, the lending agency for farmers. So we've tried to help both ways, expand our farm and be as profitable and helping neighbors. We have a small sugar bush, but we buy sap from the neighborhood and it's the best thing going. Probably better than the syrup because it's all the opportunity that comes in for pre-town meeting and post-town meeting. It educates the new people that come into town and it gives us a good chance to sort of ride the old people who've been here a long time, sort of charm them into what we should think about. Working with Housing Conservation Board people, we've done it for years with Al Carnes. We've had pieces of land we wanted to trade, and Al helped us through the years, swampland, that we would allow the brush to fill in. Yeah, it has brought in deer, a bear, but the way the lake is and everything, it allows the geese, the winter geese to come in. People enjoy hunting. Deer hunting, it's not uncommon to see anywhere from 25 to 40 deer products and the grains that are changing because people are now dealing with so much milk they can make for the year. So they've changed their product and what they produce, the grains, soybeans and corn, and it's drawn in more turkeys. It's been a good thing all the way around. Mount Independence is just up the road and about 5,000 people a year visit the museum. But there's a number of people that are there all the time hiking. That's good for the community. And I'm trying to think, we had about 650 acres of agriculture land. Some years it could be pottery clay, as hot as it gets after the rain, that clay gets hard. But you learn how to use the clay, it does well. I'm trying to think here.
I've been on your farm before.
I think so. I keep looking.
I worked for Brad Laws of Ag Laws Agriculture Service, and it was quite a few years ago. You've gotten younger, I've gotten older.
Yeah, I wish.
But I've been there and I've knew the Prazols and Ronnie and all those folks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been a few years since we've connected again, but I've been there and I worked with Chuck McCahey
Yeah.
from Sudbury and
Yeah.
so I've been there.
So all those people are good people, and
Yes,
we
sir.
all learned secrets from them, and
Yeah,
what we know how to learn, and what we know that where we don't step into something.
yeah. that's
Telling
true.
how the land trust is.
Yeah, the land trust has been good, and it's been good with the neighborhood. My uncle and my brother and I, and the Bertrand farm, they've all been one way or the other conserved. And this is now part of the farm where John Lucas is. And that is working well. He does a good job. He knows how to handle the crops. And we have 3 boat marinas on the lake And it's educating people who travel down to enjoy the lake and see how well the land looks and how it's maintained. We don't have cattle grazing on the farm much anymore. It's mostly in the buildings. And he rents another farm, my father's farm. So,
you sold the land development rights to the land trust?
yes, we worked with Alcons
Yeah. How long ago did you do that?
5-6 years.
Yep. Did that help you move better in towards retirement?
Yes, I would say yes. It was time to retire. And once you educate your kids and they have their own businesses and own education, they weren't interested.
So what we're hearing with the land trust, well, yeah, again, yeah, until later on when it's too late and then they want to come back, but then it's all gone. That's what we see over and over and over again. So what we're hearing about with the land trust, it actually, obviously does what we want it to do. It preserves the farmland or what land that we're trying to conserve, but it also does bring down the value a little bit of the land so that the next generational farmer can come in and can afford to do that and not be land poor as far as with that payment. But is that how you see that works?
Yes, yes. Makes opportunities for the next generation. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And
I could just say John Lucas probably.
Just tell me your name just for
This is my-
I'm Jean
my
Audet.
hired man.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry, just, no, all good.
I just want to say that John Lucas, there was parts of the farm that the land trust had not put to Mike and Tom. And so he could afford it by them coming in and doing it at that point in time. So it was a big thing for a young farmer. He was in his 30s to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And Gene, Al Carnets.
Yeah.
That Mike was referred to is that, John Lucas had rented the farm for Mike, how long? Like 5-6 years?
Yeah, yes.
And, the whole plan was for him to buy it. He had come from Starksboro, I think, originally from
Yes,
another
yeah.
farm.
Yeah.
And then the conservation, the VHCB funding, that we passed through to the Audets really made it possible for John to become the owner. I mean, he was strapped because maybe he wanted to make some improvements, but he was just a renter. He couldn't get equity. He had no equity. He had no land to, write a loan on. So until he actually became the owner, then things could change around.
Yeah.
We wanted to keep it that way. We wanted to keep it, you drive down over the hill.
Yeah.
And you see the lake, Mount Dependence is on the end. Wife has been a reenactor. And you see people marching by, and there's a bit of a story offline here a bit, but there's a father and a son that was challenged. And he got interested on Mount Dependence, what was there, and the kid was, things were lighting up for him. So he's learning to read and stuff. Going and traveling in plowed ground, they found grape shot, they found arrowheads, and the real big part of it is taking patience over 3 years. They found a piece of oh, no, I can't think of it.
A rifle.
A rifle beside a stump that had rotted to nothing, and it proved that it was back in that early period.
Yeah.
And the nice part was there was a button with it, and it proved that Ticonderoga was wrong. And this button proved that there were a certain group of soldiers in that point on the farm that stayed for a few days.
Pretty amazing history, isn't
It
it?
is, there's a lot there, and it gives people, we always allowed people to walk the farm and enjoy it.
Now that land preserved forever.
Right. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Beautiful.
So that's good.
What else, Mr. Audette, would you like to tell us?
it.
No, we expanded the farm, he expanded the farm, and we drilled extra wells for it. Seems like where you can see the lake and you can see the creek. And the last well we drilled for him was 1,440 feet deep. And as young men, we could probably pee more water than what we got out of that well. That's for sure. He was happy, we were happy that he's enjoying himself on the farm.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at.
Yes.
And Mike, I just want to remind you, nothing is offline here.
Yes,
I know you said just me offline, but that doesn't exist in this environment.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I just wanted, if I may, Mike, to recognize your role in VHCB in the early days. This is going back, what, 30 years ago now, where you were part of some of those early selection committees
Yeah.
for properties that we were working with. So I just wanted to recognize that. I don't know if you have anything to share about that, but
These people that work in that group. They dug in and they really picked good projects. It's money well spent, and the public should be more than happy with what's been going on in all those years. The people, and good decisions.
There was a representative, that, any relation to you? I know he was from Burlington, South Burlington area, but, was it the
I don't think so up there,
Okay.
please. I don't think so, yeah.
No. Well, good committee, any questions for Mike? No, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hello.
Good morning. Good
morning.
Apologize, I'm gonna read off of my phone.
You do whatever you'd like to do.
My name is Katie Rose Seward, and I'm a first generation farmer and the owner of Head Over Field in Charlotte, Vermont. Over the past 5 years, I've worked tirelessly to build a year-round, primarily direct-to-consumer operation on the Route 7 corridor in Charlotte. Today, I cultivate 5 acres of certified organic vegetables with the help of 2 high tunnels, a caterpillar tunnel, and a greenhouse. Our fully staffed one-stop shop farm stand is open May through November, where in addition to my produce, we buy and sell a variety of third-party farm products from our neighbors throughout Vermont, including meat, dairy, cheese, ice cream, beverages, honey, maple syrup, tea, fruit, and a lot more. This winter, I launched a new self-serve farm stand in order for our community to access my winter greens and storage vegetables throughout the cold, dark months. This has been an amazing success so far. And as we head into our 5th season, it's incredibly exciting to be able to feed our community 12 months out of the year. In addition to our robust farm stand operation, you can find me at the Shelburne Farmers Market on Saturdays during the growing season. Or maybe you'll see our name on menus throughout Chittenden County as we have established wholesale accounts with several restaurants and institutions. My husband and I purchased our conserved 76-acre farm in March of 2021, in large part due to funding from Vermont Housing and Conservation Board. We also had the help of Vermont Land Trust, Charlotte Land Trust, and a bargain sale from the previous owners, a non-farming family who kept roughly 16 acres of the original farm, including much of the infrastructure, the house, the dairy barn, and all of the water resources. Had we not been able to close on the farm when we did, this was March of 2021, the previous owners planned to reappraise the property in June and reevaluate an old plan to put a clustered development of 8 to 10 homes on the land. Given how much land values had already changed in Vermont since 2020, we can only imagine how things would have played out if the conservation funding did not come through when it did. It's very possible my business would not exist as it does today, or even exist at all, with the immense financial support provided by VHCB. Farms like mine are not only critical in keeping our treasured Vermont farmland working and protecting our open space, but they also protect the quality of life that Vermonters know and love. For example, our farm was the last remaining contiguous parcel of open land in the Mount Philo viewshed, Vermont's most visited state park. Seeing our farm conserved protected a really special part of our state for Vermonters and visitors alike. I am reminded of this every time I stop at the Williston Rest Stop on I-89 and see the giant photo on the wall taken from the top of Mount Philo. The majority of the photo is our farm. How different things would look if there were 8 or more 5-acre residential lots sitting on that prime agricultural soil. It's also safe to assume those homes would not have been affordable. This is a great opportunity to mention how affordability in Vermont, or lack thereof, is a huge challenge for me and my farm, which inherently operates with high financial risk. Last season, I had 4 full-time employees, and while I'm still in the process of hiring for the upcoming season, it's getting increasingly difficult to do so. In 2022, I was able to hire an experienced seasonal farmer to join my crew at $14 an hour. By 2024, I was paying $17 an hour for inexperienced crew members just to have the help we need to operate. And this doesn't consider the increase in payroll taxes that come with those higher wages. From a business opportunity perspective, I have a lot of interest from out-of-state farmers with great resumes. However, the lack of affordable housing in Vermont makes it hard for businesses like mine to acquire and retain good workers. I should note that as of yesterday, the livable wage calculation for Chittenden County was $25.63, well above the $17 to $19 an hour I expect to pay my employees this season. I simply cannot afford to pay them anymore. Unfortunately, the increase in stress related to Vermont's growing lack of affordability negatively impacts my mental health and quality of life, as well as that of my employees. In closing, I firmly believe that VHCB was and remains a critical player in seeing that farms like mine continue to exist as a critical component of our local economies, our lives, and our identities here in Vermont. Their work is essential in supporting conservation efforts, keeping farmland working and affordable for the next generation. Their work is critical to addressing the affordability crisis, including housing and workforce shortages that continue to deepen every year and threaten businesses and livelihoods like mine. Please support the administration's fiscal year 26 budget for VHCB in full at $36.9 million. Thank you.
Are you right on Route 7?
I am.
So the farm stand there?
Yeah.
Good access on and off? and
Yes,
Able to pull in?
that's honestly the reason why we were so interested in the farm. I knew I wanted a direct to consumer business, and even though the previous owners kept a lot of the infrastructure and resources, that shop was what we needed to be able to create our own market, and that was something that we got in the property.
Thank you. Katie, you mentioned 4 employees. Have
Yes,
they been able to find housing?
they were already living in Vermont, and they all lived in Burlington.
Okay.
They all still live in Burlington.
Yes. So it's John Snow's?
Yes.
Yes. No, John. So do you get very many teenagers that want to work during the summer?
I haven't had any interest in any high school students.
Have you tried, like going to, Hannaford Center and saying, hey, you go to the horticulture and say, hey,
Folks have recommended I do that, and selfishly, I want to prioritize non-seasonal workers. Last year, I was so lucky to have 4 people that were with me the whole year. Usually I have college students that dip out in August, and that's really hard.
Yep.
So I haven't pursued the hard seasonal workers that high schoolers usually are, but I should probably start doing that.
affordability wise, but you're copying what we hear from anybody who comes in, can't find the help and then paying a livable wage. It's pretty
Yeah.
tough.
Definitely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got to say this. You got to continue to fight the good fight because we need young farmers, and your innovation in just what you're doing right now is so vitally important. It is tough, and I know for a fact this committee will continue to support, but I know, and sometimes it seems, why am I doing this? But the agriculture community in Vermont needs you in particular. So I just want to thank you for continuing to fight through those tough times, and like I said, we'll continue to try to support in any way we can.
Thank you.
How many acres?
The farm is 76. There are hay fields and pasture. We partner with a neighbor to keep his animals out there in the summer. And my husband and I actually just relocated to the farm in December. And so now that we live there, we can start to think about maybe having our own animals and starting to diversify a little bit more beyond vegetables.
And goats.
All your sales are going through your farm stand?
The vast majority.
Farmers market.
Yeah. A little bit of wholesale is the smallest.
Well, good, Katie. Thank you. Any
Thanks.
other question for Katie?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Julie, last but not least.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Julie Curtin. I'm the Director of Homeownership with Champlain Housing Trust. And I do have some slides that I'm going to try to share. And if that's okay. Are my slides showing up?
No.
We have them on our,
There
There we go.
There we go.
One click away.
Now we're cooking with Crisco.
When you do that. All right. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be talking about a wholly VHCV funded farm worker housing program, and it feels appropriate to be following Katie on this topic. The organization I work for, Champlain Housing Trust, is a nonprofit affordable housing agency. We do everything from shelters for homeless to home ownership, and we also have several loan programs. While our focus is Northwest Vermont, our loan programs are statewide, including this program. So as you can see, we have done projects in almost every county of Vermont. We're still looking for projects in Essex and Grand Isle counties, but otherwise we have done farm worker housing repair loan projects in all parts of the state. You can see the numbers on the counties sort of give you a sense of most of our program. Most of our projects are sort of driven by dairy farms, but we have been on all types of farms all over Vermont. We also work with a lot of partners in this program. We've partnered with Efficiency Vermont to bring, high energy efficiency to the new housing that we're supporting. We also have partnered with UVM and UVM Extension through their, particularly through their Migrant Ed program, to do outreach on farms. This program was new in 2022, so we really had to get the word out to folks so that they knew that there were funds available to repair on-farm housing. We've also partnered with Milkwood Dignity Standards Council and the VHCV Farm Viability Program with the goal of connecting with both farmers and farm workers to identify housing in need of repair. And a little bit more about the history of the program. It mentioned we launched it in 2022, but in April of 2021, Vermont Housing and Conservation Board issued a housing needs assessment. The legislature was interested in this topic and provided some funding to VHCV specifically to address the need for improved farm worker housing in the state. The needs assessment then resulted in a request for proposals to develop a loan program with loans of up to $30,000 to make health and safety repairs to on-farm labor housing. Champlain Housing Trust submitted an application and was awarded a grant to launch the program with $500,000 in 2022. We saw great demand and have subsequently received 2 additional funding awards to keep the program going. In our second award, we also received funding for a pilot program to replace housing. Some homes on farms just can't be fixed up. Particularly like old mobile homes from the 60s and 70s. So we received some additional funding to try to figure out how to help farms build branding housing. And I'll talk a little bit more about the details on both programs and implement. Overall, the investment from VHCV is a little over $2.6 million for repair funds and $1.12 million for the replacement program. So first, I'm going to tell you just quickly a little bit about the repair program. We make loans secured against the real estate in amounts from $3,000 to $30,000. However, it's called a loan, but there are no payments and no interest. So it's really more a loan to get the funds to the farm and ensure that the public benefit and the purpose of the program is met over the next 10 years. So we're investing in the farms to improve the housing for farm workers. So we just have a mortgage to ensure that the housing continues to be used as farm worker housing. After 10 years, the loan does not need to be paid back. So every year, the balance declines by 10%. We learned through the first round of the program that a lot of farms, larger farms, have more than one farm labor house. And so with VHCB's approval, we are able to make up to 2 loans per farm. And each one needs to be for a dwelling unit. To give you a sense of some of the types of work that we do on these farm worker housing projects, it really is pretty expansive. We use a extensive checklist. If you imagine sort of like a home inspector would look at to just make sure that the house is safe and livable. We've done everything from bathroom remodels and kitchen remodels because we see a lot of water intrusion in these old homes. So we're addressing a lot of mold and mold remediation. Roof repairs, septic replacements, so really anything that the home needs to be functional. When we do get an application, we do a site visit and we look through the home. And if if the application says for a roof repair, but we also see that there's been a lot of water intrusion, we'll include that in the scope of work, including other safety upgrades like smoke detectors and the like. And overall, we're just, trying to help the home be more livable and comfortable for the owners. I'd like to show you an example. I'll run through it fairly quickly because I know we're tight on time, but
Keep going well.
super. So one of our projects was a dairy farm in Weld County, and they had started their renovation project, but had started to run low on funds. Had a very old home and approached us about doing some interior and exterior work. And so we were able to make our maximum loan amount to them at $30,000. And really the pictures, I think, say a lot about what we were able to do. This is very common sort of old farmhouse that's being used for farm labor. Get a sense here that there's a lot of times we're improving housing, not just for workers, but also for their families. And this is what it looked like on the outside before we funded this project. And this is what it looked like afterward. We were able to really put in some new siding and fix up the porch and provide fresh paint. We also did some work on the inside of this home. So before pictures of the bathroom and the kitchen and some windows were often we're looking at things like egress windows that are up to code. So that was included here. As you can imagine, the farm did include a lot of their own resources in this project. Our $30,000 were not enough to do all this work. But in the end, we see much more livable and healthy and clean, really nice place to live. I'd now like to tell you just a little bit about the replacement program. These are larger loans. We still have the $30,000 that declines over time, but these, because the size of the investment is larger, we do have a loan that will stay secured against the property until it is not repaid unless the farm goes out of ag use and the housing is no longer used for farm workers. Here's an example of one of the homes that we did fund. It's a zero energy modular home. So it was built part in factory, shipped to the site, and now houses 5 farm workers that previously had been living in 1970-ish trailer that had holes in the wall and no skirting. And so this project actually was featured in the Milkwood Dignity Standards Council annual report, and the folks living there just talked about how they literally cried when they got to move in. We have found that farms have a lot of expertise in a lot of things, but not a lot of time. And so one of the resources we've brought to this project is some support for figuring out how to pull together all of the funding needed to build one of these homes. Our $120,000 is just a portion of the cost. This project was almost $500,000 to build. So we saw the farm bringing in their own relationships with their credit, as well as they got some ARPA funding through CRRP, through the Agency of Commerce, and some charitable funds through their connection with Milkwood Dignity Standards Council. But no farmer would get this done without a lot of determination. So it was really awesome to see it come together. A little bit more detail on the types of homes that we can do a replacement project for. I've already talked about the mobile homes. We've also done replacement projects where, farm workers were literally living in sort of some sheetrock had been put up at the back of the milking parlor, and, they were essentially living with the cows. So, we've replaced farms in those structures. We've also replaced, offices that were, sort of turned into apartments. So far, since launching the program 3 years ago, we've had 88 farms submit applications, and we've got projects on almost 50 farms for the repair program. And that amounts to about almost 70 new housing units. We've done new housing units on all types of farms. I'd say about 60% of our projects have been on dairy farms. We've got 5 replacement projects underway and 3 have been completed, and each one's a little bit different. So we've learned a lot, and we have almost 175 farm workers who are benefiting from this program. We are continuing to get the word out about the program. We have funding for about 28 more repair projects and a couple more replacement projects, although we're in conversations with some large farms that want to do some bigger 14-bedroom type projects. So we're trying to figure those out. But this VHCB funding is absolutely essential. It's our only source to support this work. We would love for you to tell your constituents about this resource and get the word out. I think by this time next year, we will, if the governor's budget is fully funded, we will benefit from that, but we won't have enough money without additional funds for housing to do particularly the replacement homes that are higher cost, and we just are about to run out of those funds. So thank you very much for your support of Vermont Housing Conservation Board, and thank you for continuing that support into the next year.
Well, thank you. I think, Julie, that the biggest untold story in agriculture is how much farmers are trying to find housing for their health. And to see these restoration projects go through, and I know in my area where there's a lot of older dairy farms, there's a lot of older houses. And to see the pictures of these they're familiar to me. I might not know that house right there, but I know where there's 20 others. And so to see these monies being used to house to house the help of the people that are helping farmers is very gratifying.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I want to preface this by saying thank you for each little individual piece that you brought to our attention today. This question may sound a bit negative, but I don't want you to infer that it has a lack of support for what you're doing. But I think probably Abby would be the person to whom I'm addressing. What was the appropriation last year for VHCB? Is any of that still left over? And the good news is, if you're in the governor's budget, those of us in the room that are aligned that way will probably support whatever is in his budget. So I'm just asking it because sometimes you hear, yeah, but they still got money from last year kind of thing.
I believe the appropriation for last year was 34 million. And then there was an adjustment to the property transfer tax, which perhaps you recall, to provide additional funding for VHCB for housing. As far as I understand, that those commitments from last year have been made. Are the dollars out the door yet? I don't know. We could get more information from Polly or Gus on that. But the commitments, especially on the conservation side, have been made.
Okay. And people may ask us. So that would be good information to have when somebody says, yeah, but here's what I hear kind of thing.
Right. The projects, both on housing and conservation, do take time. There's long lead times. Some of the conservation projects that we've done could be 10 years or longer because it's a big decision for families to decide to sell their development rights. And then on the housing side, of course, things were getting more and more expensive. Julie, you can speak to that better than I can. But yeah.
Even if you can find construction people to do the work, I mean, we don't unfortunately have a large supply of that sector of the economy, so.
Yeah.
People are waiting to get projects completed, so, again, going to support, no problem, I had to ask the question and hope it wasn't
Thank you.
inappropriate.
No, it's a good question.
And I can add on the housing side.
Go ahead.
Okay, on the housing side, the costs have just been climbing exponentially. Particularly in the pandemic, we just sort of we're shocked to see them climb, but they haven't stopped. And so what we are seeing is, we'll go out to bid and get cost estimates to put in an application to
And
VHCB,
then,
and then sometimes
Yeah.
have to come back.
seems to me 30 grand,
It goes.
you may want to push that up a little bit.
I will,
You can't buy much for 30 grand anymore.
yeah.
Al,
Oh, thanks. I was just gonna respond and echo a little bit what Abby talked
Sure.
about in terms of the money and what was there last year. I mean, for Donald and others that are working on projects, our monies, as Abby said, it takes a long time, as all of you know, and I'm looking at Katie Rose. It takes 2 to 3 years anyway to get through, because our 2025 money from VHCB is pretty well spent in terms of we've gotten appraisals, we've gotten projects, and I'm looking out into 2027 actually, and even 2026. We've already got names attached to those monies. As we know, a lot of that is dependent on federal money, and we don't even know this. I won't go there talking about federal money, but there's a cost share that VHCB does 50% of the federal farm bill money. So it's huge to have that VHCB piece, but it takes a long time. And it takes a long time to develop this project. So the waiting list is long anyway. Mike, you,
The situation on the Lucas farm now, he has a place for his hired men to live, Mexicans. It's a good home. The sad part is they go to work and they come home because everybody's afraid that somebody might spot them somewhere.
Yeah.
Those 6 people saved their money and bought a car so that they could shop in Middlebury or shop in Fairhaven. They're scared stiff to do that stuff. And it's kind of, the whole thing is kind of sad, which
I just wrote an op-ed on that and we got it out there and we're getting a lot of activity on it. And so it's a balance, right? It's a balance of that. We know they're here. We're educating our kids in the school. We know what they're doing for the farmers. We know that they're illegal, but they're providing an invaluable service to the state of Vermont. Vermont needs a guest worker program, and they absolutely positively do. And the problem is it's a clickbait for both sides to make a ton of money on, keep on arguing about it, and it just keeps on going around and around and around and around. And so we're still working through that. I'd like to think that Vermont can solve that. I don't know if we can or not, but if the federal government doesn't want it, they need to get it out of the way so that we can have that program here, so that we can protect those workers. I am very forthright in saying that I don't like illegal immigration, but I'm also a humanist, a human being, as they are as well, and thankful that they're doing what they're doing for the state of Vermont and for their families, and that they are truly here to try to find a better way in their lives, to make their lives better and to make their country better and to make everything better. So we have a long ways to go on that. I think I have the support of the committee very strongly on that. We just need to figure out how to do that. And we're not just hearing it on the ag sector. Since I wrote the op-ed on that, I'm hearing it from the hospitality folks that the people aren't showing up. I'm hearing it from the building section that the people aren't showing up. So we're trying to find builders, right? We're trying to get these houses built. We're trying to get them on schedule and on time, and people aren't showing. And I get that. And I hope that this committee can play a part in trying to figure out how to get there. We're still hearing back from some folks about, the worst thing you can do in the whole wide world is make a problem worse. And I don't want to do that. And so we're listening, and hopefully you'll hear some more stuff that come out there. So, yeah, that's right.
community college is teaching these people an English language.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good step to help a lot of these people integrate with
Public.
Yep, right, so Steve had something. But
Well, I was gonna ask on the funding, when you give it, so once you allocate that money, say, we'll take out X in this case, that money is accounted for and then just sits in the account, correct? It can't go toward another project? So even if it takes 2-3 years, that money's sitting there collecting interest for other uses, obviously.
Right, the VHB staff will commit that money through one of they'll do a grant award. And once that grant award is put on a specific project name, that will sit there. It's not obviously distributed until we close.
Right, so.
But you're right,
it's
it's, and then they'll sign a separate contract with NRCS for their share. But you're right, we go to VHCB quarterly often at their meetings and bring projects to them, and then they allocate those funds to specific projects,
And
correct?
then it could take 2 to 3 years.
It can take a year even after, I mean, it's often taken a couple of years just to get to the committee, to the board to appropriate that money and do a grant award. And it can often take another 6 months to a year to actually close. But that money will be basically dedicated to that property.
And all that money sits in one big account,
Yeah, I don't know the mechanics of how the VHCP financing works, but yeah, essentially, they know how much money is there, and then they know how much they can allocate at various board meetings. Yep.
We can ask Polly Major to come and talk to you about that as well. That's of interest.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And please understand, just like on Wall Street, the worst thing is uncertainty. When things get really clear, you usually see a pretty good shot upward there. So the two things that we've been talking about, and I realize this is sort of levels below your individual farms, and I appreciate that. The federal funding is still very unclear. We understand that. I think there are certain reasons for it being that way. I'll just let it go with that. The danger of the tariffs, which right now don't exist, as far as I understand, like lumber from Canada and that kind of thing coming down. But to your point, the other issue that people are dealing with is they're afraid that they won't be here next year. And that also introduces uncertainty. And so we need to find a path forward here at some point. And not all the policies that are going to be coming down from Washington will be, we're not going to agree with them in concert necessarily, all of them, but at least if we could all sort of just take a deep breath and proceed, I guess it's the way I'm hoping that.
And I think that what we're seeing is that, the attention isn't being put on the workers we're trying to protect. So this is what I worry about. I worry about, 3 workers, us 3 right here. We're working on the same farm. We're there, our day off. We jump in the car that we just bought all together and we go to town and we're happy to be off of work. We're jostling down through whatever store it is. We're bumping each other and we're having just a good old time. And then somebody, whatever, off duty or whatever says, creates problems at that point in time. And those are what we really want to try to create, what we don't want to happen. And I hope that it doesn't. I hope that we draw enough attention to it in all aspects of the state to let's keep focused on what's important and what's not. And so anyways. Anything else?
I hope someone has something else because I don't want to end on a down.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
We do say this is the day where we share the love between housing and conservation, but hopefully some of these stories just leave you with a sense of results that these dollars matter a great deal to farmers and to communities and to people who eat food, all of us. And we are making a difference thanks to you and your help. Yes, there's a lot more to be done. And yes, there's a lot of uncertainty. Having VHCB fully funded this year is just a great start. And we just hope that continues because we can really put that money to work.
Well, your stories are continuing to inspire us in a big way. I can tell you that. I love the stories. you know, there's a path. It used to be that you weren't going to start farming again. Nobody was going to start farming again unless it was Mike's children that wanted to come on board. But what the path forward is, it seems that Vermont's figured out a way to make it so that first generational farmers can come on board and they can have that. We're seeing that over and over and over again. And I think that the thing that blows me away every time is how you're scaling, how you're doing it, and with the markets that you're getting. And we ask a lot of questions in this committee about what is your infrastructure? How are you getting your product to market? How are you finding your way down to New York City? How are you finding your ways here or there? What are you doing to broaden the appeal of your product? And it's just amazing of the stories that we're hearing and how people are doing that. So, as Senator Major said, keep swinging, keep doing it, and you have our support.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Committee will take just a 5-minute break.